Thank you, John Austin, for the lovely piano intro for this service. I am the Reverend Bob Renjilian here at the Unitarian Universalist of Transylvania County. Welcome here today. I know we've come together from many different places, and we are at different stages in our journey through life. One thing we have in common: we, at one point or another, and to some degree or other, found our lives touched by the life of Tricia S. Parker. And so we've turned aside from our accustomed ways and gathered here to give expression to the thoughts and the feelings that arise in us at this time of loss and completion. This is a hymn that was picked by Tricia for David's ceremony too, because she liked this hymn. It's a good hymn and a good celebration of life hymn. Let us now enjoy hymn number 1008, When Our Heart Is in a Holy Place. As I said, this was Tricia's choice from the Teal Hymn Book. Tricia said during her working life for many years that she and David had been walking in the woods, vacationing in West Virginia. Tricia didn't feel she was athletically strong. She told me she was usually hanging on a tree halfway up the mountain when David was all the way at the top waiting. But we have some nature scenes to go behind the words of this hymn in tribute to that. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love, amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell a story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our hearts lives within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place. During this service, you may see in the background here the slideshow that was playing before we began. For those of you who are watching online, it will be played in full at the end as well. So if you feel you were missing out, you're not. It will be there for you to see. Let us be honest with death. Let us not pretend that it is less than it is. It is separation, it's sorrow and grief. But neither let us pretend that death is more than it is. It's not annihilation. As long as memory endures, her influence will be felt. It's not an end to love. Humanity's need for love from each of us is boundless. It's not an end to joy and laughter. Nothing would less honor a vital soul than to make our lives drab. Let us be honest with death, for in honesty we will understand life better and ourselves more deeply. So it is that we've gathered here to celebrate Tricia's life, to consecrate the memories and the meanings that are a part of you because of her, and in so doing proclaim the glory of life itself, even in the face of loss. It's also for us to realize that there is no such thing as life in general, only life in particular, as death so competently reminds us. Life in particular today means an individual so unique that from the world's multitudes, we cannot replace her. And while the loss of her uniqueness may be more cause of grief and sorrow now, it is even greater cause for joy, for all that she brought into our lives and the many ways in which she enriched us. I have some details of her life to begin celebrating her life here. Tricia was born on May 22nd, 1941 to Bennett and Burley Chamberlain, and she enjoyed an idyllic childhood in the historic town of Garrett Park, Maryland. Now, after graduating from American University, she entered a decades-long career as an energetic and dedicated high school teacher. On November 23rd, 1974, she married David Parker in Bethesda, Maryland. She says that on meeting them, she said that on their second date, they talked in the Harper's Ferry graveyard, and that set the stage of a deep sharing that continued through the years. Tricia used to jokingly call her house the Parker University. When COVID struck, she told me they ordered books and films and courses. She said that their dinner table was short on small talk, but great on ideas. For 45 years, Tricia and David enjoyed a close, loving marriage. And they lived in Northern Virginia, as David's work was oriented to Washington, D.C., and she taught in a school just up the Beltway in Maryland. And she commuted from her house in Virginia to teach English, speech, and debate at Winston Churchill High School in Montgomery County, Maryland. Patricia loved her students, and they loved her. Partway through her career, Tricia worked part-time as a health food store person to balance her energies and become more dedicated to using only natural foods and medicines. After full retirement from teaching, she again worked part-time at a natural food store. And then later, they moved down here to Brevard in retirement. Now, Patricia and David retired to Brevard, North Carolina, in part to take advantage of its closeness to natural beauty and cultural events. A voracious reader, she enjoyed book club discussions and sometimes led the discussion by channeling her teaching experience. In recent years, she used her passion and analytical skills to follow local, state, and national issues and elections. It gave her a great joy to give generously to Democratic candidates she thought would make a difference. Now, with her beloved kitty, Sunny, she also supported many organizations devoted to animals. Tricia liked Conisty Falls. They had been there 10 years, She was a member of this congregation, UUTC, and there's a story behind that. One day, she said, she and David went to a program here at UUTC, and that raised their curiosity. They started coming to UUTC, this congregation, and felt like they'd been looking for it all their lives. Now, about 10 years ago, they left Conisty Falls and moved to College Walk. And she says that, she had met so many people there. And that is, in fact, where I met her among the many Unitarian Universalist residents of that place one day upon my arrival as a new minister. And though her health issues made mornings too hard for early church services, she kept telling me she was sorry we eliminated the 2-service system and went to 1 because she would only make it to the late service. I always told her she could come for coffee hour. She shared a connection among residents and congregation members, however, and actively participated in the Unitarian Universalist group that I led there at College Walk each month. As mentioned earlier, she was always ready to talk about getting better candidates for public office, and that was a topic of ready conversation. Patricia C. Parker, 84, of Brevard, North Carolina, passed away on February 5th, 2026, joining her beloved husband. Tricia, we miss you. I suspect what little I've said will be echoed and enriched by the sharing of family and friends next. We'll start by inviting Bennett and Kathy to come forward for comments and a letter that they have to share.
All right.
I'll start off. I'm Bennett Chamberlain. So I met my sister when I was about 4 years old and knew what a sister was. We grew up in Garrett Park, Maryland, which is not far from here. And it's an idealistic little town. People work in the government. It's small. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad runs through, which is handy. When I got a job where I went to town every day, I took the train in every day. I love riding the train. So at any rate, Kathy and my sister is just, I have enjoyed this in a way that's hard to explain, but I mean, as close as we were, and I loved her, she's always been a great. The stories that I've heard here, just fantastic. I mean, I just really feel really good about it. And I know she has a lot of good friends, and she's done a lot for different people. When she got the job as a school teacher, I'm saying, school teacher. My experience in school was okay, but it just seemed like that'd be a pretty tough job, taking care of these crazy kids as they grow up. But at any rate, boy, she hit it right. And I mean, she was a good teacher. She had a good job, and she enjoyed it. At any rate, I was so happy to see Patricia and David together. What a great couple. I mean, that was a super life together. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than that. They're really, really good. And so that was a good part of my life, and very part to see, somebody that you love, know they're going to have a great life. I mean, that is very, very important. Like finding somebody that you love very much. So at any rate, I really regret in so many ways that I didn't get enough time in my life to see as much as her as I would have liked to. I was a career airline pilot. I was always traveling. I was in management. There was always something going on. But in the last period of time, I did spend as much time with her as I could. And seeing this, see that house that she's sitting on? I built, it was a little outhouse in back of our home. And I learned how to start building from that little operation. At any rate, Garrett Park, where we lived, was it's just a fantastic time. We lived at a tennis court next door. They opened a restaurant just around the corner you could walk to. And each of us in my classes in grade school, in my grade, 8 people maybe 10, and the same thing with Tricia. Small town, very, very small town. But you knew those 10 people real good, and for the rest of your life. That part of it was kind of neat. And so at any rate, I got a career flying for an airline, and she got a career teaching school. I wound up training in the airline. Was called a check airman. So actually, my career was teaching too, in a different kind of way. And I always learned to appreciate it. But at any rate, she had a good life. I think she was just a terrific person. I am sorry in a lot of ways that I didn't get to spend more time with her as we grew up. I imagine that happens to families a lot. You know, sometimes between work and job and so on, sometimes it works out better than others. But she was great. And that's where watching what we've seen the last couple of days just makes me feel so good. She was a great person. She had a lot of good friends, and she had a damn nice life. Okay.
My turn.
Hmm?
It's my turn.
Your turn. Here, you want to read this?
No, I don't read that. I'm Kathy Chamberlain. I'm Bennett's wife, Tricia's sister-in-law. Nothing about me. It's all about Tricia. She was such a wonderful, such a spirited person, and she when she got into things, she really went full force, and she loved everything she did. So I applaud her for that. I think that I think she lived a good life, and she and David were very, very happy together, and I'm so happy for that. But she had a lot of good friends, and I would like to read a letter that first of all, she wrote it to Bennett, and she's saying that she said, "Dear Bennett, your sister Pat and I were friends for almost 50 years, and her sister-in-law Anne asked me to send you a copy of this tribute I wrote to Pat's memorial service, which hopefully Anne will be able to read at the service." I think I'm going to be reading it, I'm not sure. Although you probably don't remember me, I believe we met briefly at an event at Pat's church when she lived in Falls Church. It may have been a funeral service for your mother, but I can't remember exactly because it was so long ago. I could be wrong regarding the details, but suffice to say that I believe we met briefly at least once during my friendship with Pat. I have to say this also, that Pat went by various few names. I never heard her called Pat. It was either Tricia or Patsy. And she said that this letter goes on to say, because my brother was also a commercial airline pilot and worked for Continental Airlines for 25 years, Pat and I talked about our respective brothers and their various careers, so I feel in many ways that I know you and Kathy. I lost my brother suddenly a little less than 2 years ago. I know how difficult it is to lose a sibling. Please accept my deepest sympathies. I too am grieving over the loss of Pat because she was a dear friend whom I will miss very much. I hope you can take comfort in knowing that she was loved and respected by many, and you are not grieving alone. And she wrote this letter. Her name is Cynthia Hutchins. And she wrote this letter. It's a tribute to Pat Parker, a treasured friend. I met Pat, known as Tricia by her family, in the late 1970s through Peggy Cuddington, a mutual friend who was Pat's fellow teacher at Winston Churchill High School in Potomac, Maryland. When we first met, Pat was so warm and engaging with a welcoming smile and vibrant, and I knew immediately we would become friends. Over the next few years, a friendship between Peggy, Pat, and I grew stronger, and when Peggy passed away at an early age, Pat and I became closer, sharing with the grief of our lost friend. Our friendship was one of those rare lifetime friendships that remained strong for almost 50 years, even after Pat and her beloved husband, David, moved from Virginia to North Carolina. After their move, we kept in touch by phone and visited when she and David would return to Virginia to see family and friends. Even though Pat no longer lived close by and impromptu visits were no longer possible, I also knew Pat was just a phone call away. And through those phone calls, we were still able to share the joy of the celebration of our respective lives, as well as comfort each other when times were difficult. She was one of the most empathetic and intuitive people I've never ever known, always there to share her wisdom and guidance in a comforting way when you needed it. Pat and I shared a love of gardening, nature, and animals. She was special in so many ways. She was a pet parent most of her life to multiple cats and dogs, and we, on occasion, shared pet sitting duties. When she received her certification at a local garden center and became a master gardener, she became my resource on all things gardening and plant related. She had a beautiful singing voice and sang in several church choirs. She had an amazing, comprehensive knowledge of naturopathic medicine and continually educated herself on the virtue of her discipline. In my eyes, she was a remarkable human being, bright, kind, giving, knowledgeable, a cherished friend. Losing Pat and her friendship has been devastating for me, and even though I know time will lessen the pain of loss, I've no doubt the memories of her such treasured friendship will always stay with me, and eventually I will find great comfort in them. Cynthia lives in Springfield, Virginia, and she was kind enough to send this tribute to Patsy, Tricia, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to read it to you, and she just she poured herself into this letter. And I thank all of you for being here. It's hard to lose a sibling. Bennett and I are down to each other, and I've lost my brother, and he's lost his sister. So we are. No, that stays here. We are very happy to have all of you here, and thank you for sharing in Tricia's life. She loved her friends, and she talked about her friends and the wonderful relationships she had with different people. And thank you very much.
I totally agree with that. It has been so nice to hear all this, and all the stories, and all the people who really care. I mean, that is really special. That is really great. And you learn a lot. I learned a lot about that I missed about, her life, parts of it. This has been really very nice.
It's amazing how much you learn about people after they've passed on that you didn't know when they were living.
Yeah.
Some good and some bad.
No bad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I help you with the step down? Oh, you got it. Good. I invite Leslie to come forward. Leslie from our congregation and from College Walk.
Well, Tricia and David were really so involved with things at College Walk, and at UUTC. They did a lot of visiting with people who were not well and went to the hospital, things that so many people just don't quite get around to doing. They did. And so it was nice to know that. And um, the the shock of David's death was something I know Tricia never recovered from. It just took so much out of her. And we didn't see her at UUTC again because 10 o'clock service was too early for her, as Reverend Bob said. So, but at College Walk, when my husband and I moved there, um, it was great to know that there were other people from UUTC there already, and so on. So she was among them and just down the street from me, and we could walk together and do things like that. And so on. And she knew everybody. She talked to people and really liked people. It was very clear about that. And after he died, Bonnie was absolutely wonderful. She walked every single day with Tricia, long walks, and Tricia talked to a lot of people on those walks. It was a huge offering that she did. Um, I mean, they were friends, but still, that's a lot to do, and so many of us have done that. And we've kept in touch with her, but she became more and more insular with time, and I think her own health was a part of that. She really worked on her own health. I mean, that she worked in a health food store, I had heard too, but it obviously affected her a lot. So she was very concerned. She did not eat in the dining room at College Walk very much, but she loved to come occasionally when somebody had a pass or she had one, so that she could talk with people because she loved to talk with people. So um, I know at least Bonnie and I called her regularly, talked with her. She would drive up to my house, but even as close as it was not something she could walk anymore in the last couple of years. She'd stop in and we'd chat. We both each had a cat, and we talked about our cats and all sorts of other things and so on. So she was fun to be around, and other people would say the same thing. I mean, they enjoyed her company, but she didn't go many places. I know she particularly enjoyed being with Bonnie, and that was important for her as well. Um, it it just the gradual withdrawing into her house, we certainly noticed, and we also know that political things were so important in the last year or two, and she did a lot of reading. She was a big reader, as everybody said, and she was part of a reading group I started of UU people, and she did all sorts of research, and she came in and really had a lot to offer. And she withdrew from that group too, uh, eventually. But so her um, involvement with politics was interesting. She got letters from different people thinking, and I think she felt that they were really a personal letter because they said, "Dear Patricia," or "Dear Tricia," whatever it said. I don't know, but we've all gotten letters like that. But she did support big time. So that was another good thing that she did. But she was liked by everybody who knew her because she was such a great conversationalist and an interesting woman. I'm glad she was my friend.
Thank you, Leslie. And you mentioned Bonnie. Bonnie provided the flowers. So thank you very much. I call forward Ann Parker Diggory.
Hello. In preparation for the celebration of Tricia's life, I had the pleasure of talking with many of her family and friends and looking at her through her papers and her photos. You saw the photos of her youth, her travels, her family, her loving marriage. And there isn't, there are so many times that it was fun to look at, and I just wish I had seen some of those photos earlier and chatted with her. We all talk about how we haven't talked with our friends enough and know much about their lives. So it was both in sadness of not knowing what the stories were behind. There's a really funny picture of both her and David in these hillbilly outfits, and I never knew about that one. But anyway, I'm sad that she wasn't around to explain what that was all about. I wish I'd asked more questions. I met her when she married David, my brother, and was delighted to be a witness of the joys of their marriage. They shared interests in reading, in travel, and exploring life's mysteries. When they had visited on holidays, we live in upstate New York. They had happy interactions, first with our daughters, Ariel and Parker, and then with our grandchildren. A special time that you saw pictures of Tricia holding that baby. My daughter Ariel and her husband Mike had twins November 1st, and Tricia and David came up for Thanksgiving. So if you count that, those were really tiny babies. And they had great time holding them, dancing with their older sister who was 3, Maya, and just had a really good time with that. After David died 5 years ago, Tricia and I would talk on the phone, long conversations about politics, about the state of the world, and what could be done to preserve it for future generations. And that was her real interest. She worried about the youth. She was glad, in some ways, that she was no longer a school teacher because she wasn't sure how she would explain to them what was going on. I'm sure many of you witnessed that passion. And to celebrate some aspects of her life, I was fortunate as I went through her computer. Beware of what you leave on your computer. I went through her computer and found some very thought-provoking little essays she had written in response to a book group that was held here before they moved here. I think it was, anyway. It was a discussion of Wayne Muller's How Then Shall We Live? 4 Simple Questions That Reveal the Beauty and Meaning of Our Lives. And she wrote, maybe it wasn't with a group here, but anyway, she typed out, fortunately typed, because some of you know her handwriting, and I was able to transcribe some of those things. And I'm going to share with you Tricia's words so that she would be here with us. Asked for examples of an effortlessness in her life, she wrote, I have been able to experience effortlessness in my childhood and in retirement. In my childhood, I had school and chores, but I used to dream a lot, listening to music, lying in the backyard, imagining clouds into animals. Having periods of little effort was wonderful. Retirement in Brevard. There are interesting things to do, experience, and learn, but I have dream time again. I can choose my life, and it's more spiritual and giving. Reacting to a question about the role of positive and negative energies, teaching high school students was really challenging. 150 students a day, lessons to plan, and essays to grade at night, telephone calls to parents, student and parent conferences, faculty meetings. Early in my career, my reward was the joy of interacting with students in close and amusing ways. They at times used me as a non-threatening surrogate parent with such issues as, what kind of obligation do I have if I accept a date to the prom? Okay, that's a be fun one to answer. Then in the 90s, students were very different with the drug and alcohol culture. Attention spans changed. Both students and parents became very aggressive about grades. I had to bury the negative energy and show up to class each day, friendly, energetic, and ready to teach. And I can imagine her rising to the moment with that, but I understood the challenge it was to her health. Responding to a question about spirituality, she said, I love to study religion and philosophy and ponder ethical issues in my reading. I had tried so hard to fit into a spiritual home, but had not found one until we finally tried the UU Church. And I was hooked. So free to form my own beliefs, such an enthusiastic and happy place with people pursuing good values. Tricia generously supported candidates she believed in, but she could also be critical. I found one letter Tricia wrote to Mark Meadows when he was a congressman from North Carolina. I hear some chuckles. She expressed her concern for the youth of our country. What would you say to young people who are our future about expressions of hatred for those who are different and those who disagree? They need models of good behavior for their future. How do you defend not working on climate change for our children's future on this planet? There is little time. Responding to a question, can a single life change the universe? She wrote, we can't change the universe, but I believe that all of our bright inner lights together can bring change. I'm inspired by her passion as well as her gentle spirit. May she inspire all of us to pay attention, to work for what we see as right and just. And one last quote from her writings. I wish those who come after me a meaningful life and a peaceful world.
Before we get to Bruce, I had a little note here to ask if there was anyone else in attendance who wanted to speak. Was there anyone else here who would like to say something? We have a portable microphone. Would you? Would you like to come forward to the microphone or bring it to you?
And I'll add one more name. I knew her as Trish, which was Conisty Falls. That's what we called her. Trish and David were officially good neighbors. We worked in Good Neighbors together. It was an organization. And David and Trish were very active, and my husband and I also. And it's just what the name implies. And they were quintessential. They were people who visited the sick. We took people to the doctor. We cooked meals for people who were shut in. We had a bereavement committee, and they were with all of those functions. And David and Trish were co-chairs for some period of time in that. And Trish was a daily volunteer who answered the phone. We had a helpline. It was really good neighbors. So we were distressed when they left us and moved to College Walk. But I became her neighbor there too. So I was very blessed in that. And I just wanted to say thank you, Trish, for all of that. And I'm sure, as you said earlier, she and David are now looking back and enjoying some of that together. So, and I'd like to speak for one other person who loved Trish very much, and her name is Donna Allstat. And Donna was Tricia's housekeeper for a long time. She's also mine. She could not be here today. And I'm sure she would not have gotten up and said a single word. But so often I felt the love that she felt for Trish, especially as her health began to fail. And she was very nurturing to Trish, and they were friends. And Donna valued that friendship very much. She would have been here today, except she's taking care of 4 grandchildren in Hollywood. So she would rather have been here, I think. So, but thank you for letting me say a word. She was a very special person in my life for a long time.
And can you remind us of your name?
I'm Elizabeth Creech.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah. Others? Anyone else? I know that there are cookies and things after the service is done, but we'll let you end this portion of the service.
Thank you. I'm Bruce Parker, David's next brother down. There were 3 brothers and a sister growing up together. Anyway, I'm glad to be able to speak this afternoon about Tricia, and I offer thoughts on behalf of my wife, Peggy, also, since she was not able to join us for this memorial service. It is hard to summarize the life events and achievements of someone you have known for decades, so Peggy and I want instead to share some thoughts about the person that Tricia was. We knew her as someone with a warm and loving heart, with interests that ranged from literature to politics to religion to plants in her garden. She enjoyed the natural world, cherished the dogs and cats that were part of the home that she made with David. And Tricia so clearly loved David. She admired him deeply, describing him as a Renaissance man. And as David's birth family, we will be eternally grateful for all that she brought to their lives together. In the last years of her life, Tricia retained a vigorous and often outraged interest in both local and national politics. But she was so clearly Miss David, our sense was that she often talked with him and that he was still a presence in her life. In closing, I will read some words that were written by my brother David, Tricia's beloved husband, before he died, and represent what he probably would have said if he were here today. Tricia, you are honest, empathetic. You can't stand to see people in pain. Intelligent, sensitive, of high moral character, considerate, sincere, growing spiritually and emotionally, responsible, spontaneous, creative, caring, kind, and loving. Love, David. Thank you.
Closing words I have are in your order of service. If you didn't pick up an order of service on the way in, they are on the usher's stands on either side here. You're welcome to one as a souvenir. They are from the poet Wendell Berry, called The Larger Circle. We clasp the hands of those that go before us and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms and the larger circle of lovers, whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures passing in and out of life, who move also in a dance to a music so subtle and vast that no ear hears it except in fragments. No eulogy can fully convey all that was her life. No stone monument will epitomize who she was, and no tribute is ever going to capture her spirit. No history will do her justice. Only you can do right by her. And you can do so only by sharing your memories and your stories, and most importantly, by living so that others will remember the best of her in how you go about your life. No higher tribute can any human being receive. Our closing hymn, and you may remain seated if you wish or rise as you're willing and able, is number 205, Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart